भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रिये। So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, verse number 36, chapter entitled Maharaj Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा अनुसृतस्वभावात् करोति यत्तत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयेतत्। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा अनुसृतस्वभावात् करोति यत्तत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयेतत्। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा अनुसृतस्वभावात् करोति यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयेतत्। Mataji's. Kayena, with the body. Vacha, speech. Manasa, mind. Indriyai, senses. Va, or. Buddhya, with the intelligence. Atmana, the purified consciousness. Va, or. Anusruta, followed. Swabhavat, according to one's conditioned nature. Karoti, one does. Yat yat, whatever. Sakalam, all. Parasmai, to the Supreme. Narayana iti, thinking this is for Narayan. Samarpayet, he should offer. Tat, that. Translation. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme Thinking. This is for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented in this regard that a person who engages all the sensory activities of his body, mind, words, intelligence, ego, and consciousness in the service of the Supreme Lord cannot be considered to be on the same level as a karmi working for his personal sense gratification. Although, apparently, still a conditioned soul, one who offers the fruit of all his activities to the Lord can no longer be touched by the countless miseries that arise from the reactions to materialistic activities. Because of enmity against the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his omnipotent authority, the conditioned living entity performs activities against the order of the Lord. Yet, self-realized souls continue to perform all types of work within this world to carry out the mission of the Supreme Lord. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those karmis who are sufficiently pious follow the example of the lotus feet of the Lord. Although this is counted as karma mishra bhakti or devotional service mixed with the desire to execute fruitive activities, such mixed devotional service is gradually transformed into pure devotional service, as the pious fruitive workers disengage themselves step by step from the bogus philosophy of enjoyment of one's hard-earned rewards. Pure devotional service rewards them with complete good fortune. Srila Sridhar Swami has commented, Atmana चित्तेन अहंकारेण वा अनुश्रुतो yah swabhavas tasmat. Although one may still be in the bodily concept of life, he should offer the fruit of his work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those with a primitive materialistic concept of the Supreme Lord consider the Lord present only in a temple or church. They make some offering to the Lord in the place of worship, but in their normal activities they claim proprietorship, not thinking that God is present everywhere and within everyone. We have practical experience of many so-called religious men who become very offended if their children try to become servants of the Supreme Lord. They feel, God should be pleased with whatever humble offering I give him, but my family and ordinary business affairs belong to me and are under my control. The perception of anything as separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his proprietorship is called Maya or illusion. Srila Sridhar Swami has quoted, Na kevalam viditaha kritam evanti niyamaha swabhavanusari laukikam api. The regulation that one should serve the Supreme Lord does not refer only to prescribed religious paths, ceremonies and regulations. Rather, all the activities one performs in this world according to one's personal nature should be dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll stop here. This is the A part. The second part will be continued tomorrow. This. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sindhu Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatradaro Naparam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I seek the blessings of all the exalted Vaishnavas before I could speak anything, because I really feel unqualified to sit here and speak in front of so many exalted devotees who are Vedavit, as has been described in the Bhagavad Gita, who have understood the knowledge of the Vedas very, very deeply and who are practicing it in their own lives. So I feel like a small child trying to walk. So I seek your sincere blessings. Hare Krishna. This particular verse, yesterday morning I got a call that tomorrow can you please speak. So I agreed, and when I saw the verse, I was very much enthused, because this is a verse with which I believe practically everybody is acquainted. And I was surprised to know that it is from the Bhagavatam. So it's a very wonderful verse. And just last Sunday, we had His Grace Shikshashtakam Prabhu giving the Sunday morning Bhagavatam lecture. And in that he was mentioning categories of shlokas. Shlokas can be categorized into different categories. So he says you have the reassuring category, you have the gratitudinal category, etc. So I was thinking, in what category will this fit, this shloka? So I believe you can call this as the course correction category or the paradigm shifting category. And there is one more category which this will fit in, which we can discuss at the end. But in fact, just to reassure myself that this is that same verse, I went to the Google and played the Ganesh Aarti. And there it was. So after this verse is sung in that Aarti, then they say Achyutam Keshavam Ramanarayanam, that whole thing goes along, Sridharam Odaram. And then it is Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The Maha Mantra, as it appears in the original Vedic literature. But in ISKCON, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, it has been reversed. It's Hare Krishna first. And even about that, I was just thinking, it is so much like Narad Muni instructing Valmiki. When Valmiki said, I can't chant Ram Ram because I have committed so much of sins, these words are not coming in my mouth. So Narad Muni told him, say Mara Mara. Because you have been killing people, so you have been killing animals, you have been hunting, so you can say Mara Mara, so automatically it will become Ram Ram. I think in the same way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has understood our fallen condition in this age of Kali, and that we are unqualified to chant the Maha Mantra as is given in the Vedic literature. Therefore, he has reversed it for us, understanding our fallen situation, so that we can easily access the Maha Mantra and the mercy that comes along with it. It is like the magic word which says open sesame and the whole treasure house is open in front of you. That is the potency of the Maha Mantra. Another one point when we read this shloka is, it is explained here in the translation, in accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life. Even this sentence set me really thinking, because we have modern science, and modern science goes so deeply into the study of matter, very deep. We have specializations, we have bifurcations, we have dissections, we have modern tools like microscope, X-ray machine, so on and so forth. Just to, as in Hindi you say, baal ki khal nikalna, they say, no? Hair splitting. So much details and depth they go into, trying to understand. But ultimately, we are still zero on the topic of the origin of this universe. We have not been able to make any headway. Why? Because the Vedic literature classifies all the knowledge that we have in material science in one word, and that is very interesting to know. That one word is agyan, ignorance. We are so proud of the knowledge, but the Vedic literature simply puts it in another category. This is all ignorance. Then what is true knowledge? 3 questions. Who is God? Who am I? And what is my relationship with God? Or what is the goal of my life? This is true knowledge. And just looking at this, one is really amazed at the depth of understanding. Particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life. So one may wonder, what is this particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life? This is like a riddle. Kahan hame uljha rahe ho? But the point is, it refers to the 3 modes. And we know with all our sophistication, modern science does not recognize the 3 modes at all, because it is so abstract. You have got no experimental way of verifying it. But yet when you read the Gita, the 3 modes are so prominent in our lives and our daily application. And we are every second interacting with these 3 modes. So just see how this Vedic literature, how this knowledge is so deep. This is only possible with one who is beyond the influence of the illusory potency under which we are all coming. It is our understanding with all our sophistication is at the best a frog in the well philosophy. We are limited to that limitations within which we are moving around and thinking that we are making great strides. But look at this simple words. And then, what is our composition? Like when you take a motor car, most of the people are happy just inserting the key, starting the car and driving it. The minute the car stops or something happens, they say call the towing vehicle or call the mechanic, and Baba, ab dekho ye kya ho gaya abhi? Mujhe pata nahi hai. I am not able to understand. In the same way, we are going through our life with the help of this human body, with this sophisticated mechanism that the Lord has provided us. But it's only when you open the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam and read, one is able to understand how clearly the Bhagavatam explains, the Vedic literature explains what is our composition. So here it is given, one's body, the gross body, one's words, mind, senses, intelligence, purified consciousness. All these are the various components of our self. And above all these things, this consciousness actually refers to the soul, is a symptom of the soul. So that is our true self. So all these things one has to offer to the Supreme Lord, thinking this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. This is a complete reversal. Our entire materialistic philosophy teaches us this world is for our pleasure. We make ourselves the center of the universe. We make ourselves the center of the whole creation, and everything is centering around our pleasure. But here it is a complete turnaround. That is why I call it paradigm shifting mantra. This is for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. And actually the best part is, this mantra is recited at the end of most of Karmakandi rituals. Most of the Karmakandi rituals, when they are performed, I remember before coming to ISKCON, we used to have the priest coming to our house and perform various kinds of pujas, Ganpati home, etc. And at the end of it, this mantra was surely there. Narayana iti samarpayaitat. So what is this aspect, that why is this mantra applied like this? So the majority of the population is into demigod worship. And the Bhagavad Gita very clearly states that this demigod worship is for those who are Mayaya Apaharita Jnana, those whose knowledge has been kidnapped, just as Ravan kidnapped Sita, by the illusory potency of the Lord, which is known as Maya. Now, even this understanding we can see is so revolutionary, because in our understanding of life and philosophy of life, we generally stick to gross things. Even when you see ads and so many other narrations, especially to the children, their whole summation of happiness is giving them gifts and giving them things. But here it is said, Mayaya Apharita Jnana, that is, Maya is kidnapping your knowledge, true knowledge. And this is a remedy for that. Because those who are into demigod worship are those people who are completely under the influence of the illusory potency. And instead of looking for real happiness in life, they are looking for temporary bits of happiness. And therefore, they are approaching the demigods to grant them their immediate wishes. So, it is therefore a course correcting mantra. It is telling you, please, okay, you may be under this spell, you may be wanting this immediately, just like you tell a child. If a child is asking that, give me chocolate, the mother will say, no, you cannot have chocolate because chocolate will spoil your teeth. The child will insist and cry. So mother says, okay, only one chocolate. So what is that? That is not license, that is concession. Similarly, the Vedic literature also, or the Vedic fold, the Vedic philosophy, has made provisions for those who are so much attracted to materialistic enjoyment that, okay, we will have some provision for you. But then, at the end of it, you are again reminded, Narayana iti samarpayita. That is, ultimately, whatever you do with all your faculties that has been awarded to you, please utilize it in the service of the Supreme Lord Narayan. You are reminded, you may be worshipping any demigod, but again the name of Narayan automatically comes in. So this is the beauty of the Vedic philosophy. In accordance with this nature, we have acquired in this conditioned life. Okay. So, our nature is actually a mixture of the three gunas in varying degrees of combinations. The three gunas are the Sattva guna, the Rajo guna and the Tamo guna. So, and our Vedic philosophy also has a wonderful way of gradually encouraging us to come out of these influences. And that process and that system that has been given to us to gradually elevate oneself is the Varnashrama. Varna and the Ashrama. Varna is the 4 social orders and the Ashrama is the 4 spiritual orders. So the Varnashram Dharma recognizes that souls are conditioned, and the purpose of this human life is to gradually connect all the conditioned souls to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So gradually, okay, you want these material pleasures, you are attracted to this, okay, go ahead, have it. But at the end of it, please come back. Please try to understand, this is not the all in all. This is not the purpose of human life. The human life has a higher goal. And step by step, giving them space and time, that is the best part of it. How to bring an unwilling child to do something which is actually good for the child, but which the child does not recognize. In this regard, I would also like to say, like a 3-year-old child is not going to walk up to the parents and say, please admit me to the nursery class or admit me to the school. The child is incapable of understanding these things. The child is very happy to play. But it is the responsibility of the parents and the elders and the seniors in the family who take up that and who actually take the child to the school and get the child enrolled. So, from the spiritual point of view, most of us are like those children. And the sadhus, guru, and the shastras, they are like the parents. They know what is good for us. And so they, in time, come to tell us. Do not waste your time simply playing. Wake up and start learning. Start learning. Try to make your life useful. Do not waste your life. Therefore, we are introduced to spirituality. Therefore, the Guru, whose purpose is to connect the living entities to Krishna. He is an authorized representative sent by the Lord Himself. Therefore, He comes down into this material world, not like us out of the reactions of our karma, but as a messenger of the Lord. And therefore, we have seen in Prabhupada's life, on so many occasions, Prabhupada has exemplified by his actions, by his words, that he is not a man of this world, but he is actually an import from the spiritual kingdom who has come specifically to take us back, to remind the sleeping souls that the true goal of life is to go back to Godhead, is to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. And that is exactly what this entire 2nd chapter is dealing with. That is Bhagavad Dharma, the earlier verses. Bhagavad Dharma is nothing but the process of devotional service, of trying to reconnect to the Supreme Lord, Supreme Bhagavan. So by step giving us a process by which we can come out of the influence of these three modes and that keep them tied to this material world. Again, when you see the arrangement of the Lord, we are absolutely surprised. When we need to construct a prison house, we put up huge walls. We have iron railings and grills by which the prisoner is not allowed to come out of the prison house. But look at the construction of the Lord's prison house. This entire material creation is actually a prison house. And look at His construction. He has also brought out a method by which to keep the inmates inside this prison house. But His method is very, very different. And what is His method? He has actually used invisible ropes, and these invisible ropes are the gunas. And therefore, the discussion or understanding of this is completely outside the understanding of modern science, because it is invisible. And they are only restricted to whatever is within the scope of the five senses. In fact, that is another beautiful understanding that the Vedic literature provides us. Very often we come across these two words, matter and spirit. What is matter? Very often children, when you ask them, they say anything that occupies space. But Standard 6th General Science textbook defines matter as anything which is within the scope of the five senses. Anything that comes within the scope of the five senses is matter. And anything to do with matter is material. For that matter, our mind is also considered to be material. It's amazing. Mind is so abstract in nature, we can't even feel it with our senses, but yet it is classified as material. Something to do with matter, because mind is attached to the body. So it is in connection with the body, and therefore it is material. And also once His Grace Madan Gopal Prabhu very beautifully explained this point, that why mind is considered to be matter. He said that as matter becomes more and more subtle, like gases, and then of course nowadays we have this plasma stage where it disintegrates further, but then what happens to the atoms within that matter? They actually vibrate, and their vibration goes on increasing as the temperature increases. So when it comes to the gaseous state, that vibration is very, very intense. And as it goes to the plasma state, it becomes more intense. But then he explained that mind is so subtle that the vibrations of the atoms in the mind are extreme, that is beyond even our understanding, beyond what even your microscope can catch. So it is highly agitated, highly agitated. And because it is so highly agitated, it is beyond our control. And therefore, our Sudama Prabhu gives a very good statement. Jo man ki sune, wo monkey. Monkey. That means if you are going to be guided by your mind, you are nothing better than a monkey. And that reminds me of one beautiful shloka, which describes a monkey. Markadasya surapanam tato mritchika damshanam tanmadye bhuta sancharam yadva tatva bhavishyati. So, a mind in the first place, a monkey in the first place is highly unstable, restless. It cannot sit in one place. That's why when children fool around, or when they are not listening, they say, don't monkey around. So, a monkey by nature is highly restless. And now, if that monkey has been bitten by a scorpion, Markadasya surapanam. If that monkey has consumed alcohol, surapanam, then what happens? It becomes further agitated. And now it is bitten by a scorpion. So the agitation is magnified many times more. And to make the matters worse, a ghost has entered the monkey now. So you can imagine what is the state of that monkey. That monkey is the mind. That is the nature of the mind. Now, such wonderful understanding, these things we get from these Vedic verses. Therefore, we see the depth of the understanding. So, naturally, this knowledge can only be revealed by one who is in perfect knowledge. The Creator Himself only can give this. Therefore, the Vedic knowledge is the one which is given by the Lord Himself. It's not a man-made knowledge. And therefore, it is perfect. Therefore, we are blessed that we have come in contact with this kind of a study, which is a real study, which is real understanding. So it is very interesting to note how the Vedic culture harmonizes practices according to the natural arrangement, making the transition from material to spiritual like a smooth flow, and not an abrupt jolt or a rude shock. In fact, pleasurable. Only you change the paradigm of pleasure. The living entities are pleasure seeking. So, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 40, verse 165 states, Atmendriya priti vancha, tare boli kam, Krishnendriya priti icha, dhare premanam. So, on the material platform, one is seeking sensual pleasures. One wants to titillate the senses and enjoy the pleasures that come from it. And therefore, people are enamored on the materialistic platform by things. They are enamored by things. They are attracted by things. But the real happiness comes, Krishnendriya priti icha dhare premanam, when actually you engage in loving relationship with the Supreme Lord and please the senses of the Supreme Lord, not your own senses, not the materialistic senses, not the material senses, but the spiritual senses of the Supreme Lord. So transition to spiritual life is not an option if one seeks real happiness. Again and again, Prabhupada is re-emphasizing it, that happiness and material life cannot go together. Because in material life, repeatedly, you get the hammering again and again by the influence of the illusory potency. So you may think that you have attained what you got, but suddenly it is like a game of snake and ladder. In the game of snake and ladder, what happens? You come to 99 and 100 is finished, and suddenly there is a snake there and it brings you down to 1. So this is how the material process works. Therefore, people are frustrated again and again in their attempts for material perfection. Therefore, Prabhupada explains, material problems, spiritual solutions. It is not that material solutions can help you. Material solutions, again as Sikshashtakam Prabhu said, पुराने दर्द की इलाज एक नई दर्द होती है. He said in that last one, that verse he was quoting. So therefore, if you want to rectify one problem materially, you have to invite another problem. So it actually is not solution at all. But the real solution lies in surrendering to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But that cannot happen overnight. That happens in a gradual way. So first, to cultivate loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, because love and service have an interrelation. When the mother loves the child, she serves the child ahaituki apratihata. That means she is serving the child without any expectation of return. She doesn't want any return flow of benefits. And she is serving the child uninterrupted. Even in the middle of the night, if the child is crying for milk, the mother is ready to feed the child. She doesn't say it is off duty hours. सुबह 6 बजे के बाद मेरी ड्यूटी शुरू होती है. Or even when the child is growing, parents don't take the thumb impression of the child on a stamp paper. I have spent so much money on your education. I have spent so much money on your upkeep. So when you are grown up, you should take care of me. And they register it in the court of law. No such thing is done. The parent's love for the child is uninterrupted, and it is without expectation of anything in return. That is pure love. Similarly, our love for the Lord should be pure, uninterrupted, and without expectation of any return. And that is actually translated into service, that love. That is proof that one is loving. Otherwise, it is not love at all. Otherwise, it is again trying to, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So, that love is exemplified by service. And the acharyas have put the reverse process in order. So when we have lost our love for the Lord, then the only way to reinstate that love is to first engage us in the service of the Lord. And that love will, that service will automatically awaken the love for the Lord. And in that way, we will be reconnected to the Lord by the process of loving devotional service, which in other words is known as bhakti. And that same thing is also known as the Bhagavad Dharma. So, unless one connects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the spiritual platform, one cannot be happy. And even if one is in the material world, subject to the conditionings, if one is connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by practicing Bhagavad Dharma, that is devotional service, then one is untouched by the flood of material miseries, though floating in it. This is the best part of it. This actually not only reconnects us to the Supreme Lord, but this devotional service also insulates us from the miseries of this material world where we have come by force, where we can't quit before we serve our term, before we finish serving our term. So how to live in this material world? It is by actually insulating ourselves by the process of devotional service. Then these material miseries will not touch us. So this Bhagavad Gita explains, Padma Patra Evam Bhasam, like a lotus leaf which is bright and green, on which the surface, on the surface of which the water curls up into round balls and falls off, because it has got a wax coating. That devotion acts as a wax coating, acts an insulation, and that is insulating a person from the material miseries, even though he may be surrounded, but he remains unaffected. As His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhu often mentions, you should be, though you are in this world, you should not be of this world. It's a very famous statement he makes often. So that's a very beautiful line. We are in this world, but we should not be of this world. The sensual pleasure seekers, those accumulating wealth out of greed, those chasing name and fame, power and position, are the people of this world. They are the people of this world. Those who are fixed in their consciousness on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, constantly acting to please the Lord, to satisfy His senses, are like the lotus flower, though growing in slush and muddy water, perfectly shaped, colorful and fragrant, and always placed in clean atmosphere beyond the slush and dirt, though the root is firmly fixed in the ground. That is why the lotus flower is a sign of perfection. It actually exemplifies how one should be of in this world but not of this world. And therefore even the Lord in his hand, he holds a lotus. Shankh, Chakra, Gada, Padma. And the first thing he is offering us is his hand of friendship he is extending to us. He gives us the lotus flower. He says, take this, accept this. Let us be friends. Come back to me. I want you. He's calling us back. But when this also brings us to another beautiful explanation that has been given in the Bhagavad Gita. That how in the first place we come into this material world at all. Ichha dvesha samutvena dvandva mohena bharata samoham sarva bhutani sargayanti paramtapa. 7.27 Bhagavad Gita. So it says, it is only by desiring to enjoy separately from the Lord. Ichha, desire. Now this ichha is actually the only function of the soul. The soul can only desire, it cannot do anything else. And its symptom is consciousness, chetana. So, by purifying that desire is the only way that we can actually go back to the spiritual world. Because the desire is contaminated, the desire to enjoy separately from the Lord is the reason for our coming into this spiritual world. And therefore the next verse, 7.28 explains, Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirpukto bhajate mam dridhavrata. So, for those who have exhausted their burden of sinful reactions, Yesham tu antagatam papam, and those who have a credit balance of pious deeds, jananam punya karmanam, what happens to them? Te dvandva moha nirmukto, they come out of the dualities of this material world and they engage in the determined worship of the Supreme Lord. Bhajate mam dridhavrata, with determination they engage in the worship of the Supreme Lord. So the process is given, and the acharyas actually help us to come to this platform of reinstating ourselves in our original spiritual consciousness. So recently one WhatsApp clipping is coming around in the WhatsApp, and that says, some Russian devotee is asking Srila Prabhupada, we are mlechas, we are so fallen, we are out of the Vedic fold. So what hope is there for us to go back to the spiritual kingdom, to reunite with the Lord? How much time will it take for us? And Prabhupada shoots back. 1 minute, Prabhupada says. And that is really amazing. Because it is not that Krishna is separated by desire and not by distance. That is the best part of it. We are separated from Krishna not by distance but by desire. Draupadi cried out, intensely desiring the presence of the Supreme Lord. She wanted the protection of the Supreme Lord. Gajendra cried out intensely to the Supreme Lord after he exhausted all his methods of trying to save himself. And when this kind of a situation arises in anybody's life, anywhere, it is a science. The Lord immediately responds, because He is not at all separated by distance. He is always there for you. But only thing is, He is seeing where is your desire, what is your desire. And again, when a living entity is desiring to enjoy the pleasures of this material world, it is like a child who is satisfied with the toys that the mother has given to the child to play and keep himself busy. So the toys of this material world are Mercedes car and a flat in the high-rise building, a farm house, and so many other perks and facilities that people are attracted to, climbing up the social ladder. But then when a living entity is not satisfied with these things, like when a child is not happy with the toys but is looking up to the mother and crying for the loving embrace of the mother and crying, please mother, lift me up, take me with you. Then ultimately the mother keeps aside all her work. She lifts up the child and holds the child in her, arms. And that is the supreme solace the child gets. Same thing with the living entity. In this material world, we may temporarily enjoy some pleasures, but these pleasures are ultimately of a temporary nature, and they are not going to give lasting satisfaction to the soul. And therefore, to reconnect with the Supreme Lord, because we are Satchitanand, the Lord is Satchitanand. So it's only when on that platform when there is a reconnection, then there is perfect happiness and complete real pleasure. That is why a person who is God realized is not distracted by the temporary pleasures of this world, and neither is he disturbed by the miseries of this world. He is not, by both the things, he is not swayed, but he is fixed in his consciousness. And the Lord explains, Mamaivam Sho Jiva Loke. He says, all the living entities are my parts and parcels. And therefore, it's only when you reunite with the Lord, it's when the part meets the whole, it reaches the goal. That is the equation, that is the formula. So we are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And when you reach the whole, that is reunited with the Supreme Lord by the process of devotional service, then the real purpose of human life is served. Otherwise, attaining heights in this material world is absolutely coming back to the position of zero. It is actually no movement. It is like running on the treadmill, but however much you run, you are still in the same place. So therefore, people are very busy, very active, always on the move, always on the go. But what is the progress? No. No progress towards God, no progress towards the devotees. And therefore, the Lord has mercifully given Shastra, Sadhu and Guru. Shastra gives all the knowledge, it is the direct communication of the Lord. Sadhus, they explain the purports of the Shastras, and the Guru is one of those sadhus who comes down and personally holds your hand and takes you back and says, come with me, like the mother personally guiding the child. Initially, because of material desires, one worshipped demigods, but by chanting this particular mantra, one is redirected back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And just one little bit of reference which I would like to take from this Canto 5 of the Bhagavatam, the chapter 19 entitled The Island of Jambudvipa, wherein there is Devarishi Narad, he is speaking to Sarvani Manu. And there is the prayers of the demigods. So this is really beautiful. It is very hope-giving to us. Because sometimes we may feel, where are we into this material world and where have we got entangled into this? So this is the hope-giving part. The demigods are praying. After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. So even a position like heaven where the demigods are lodged, even they are afraid that they are forgetting the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. So this shloka directly brings us back to Narayan. Narayana eti samarpayetat. It is actually bringing us back. And this is actually the advantage of taking birth in this holy land of India, which is known as Bharatvarsh. And further it is explained, a short life in the land of Bharatvarsh is preferable to a life achieved in Brahmaloka for millions and billions of years, because even if one is elevated to Brahmaloka, he must return to repeated birth and death. Although life is in Bharatvarsh, in a lower planetary system, is very short, one who lives there can elevate himself to full Krishna consciousness and achieve the highest perfection, even in this short life, by fully surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus one attains Vaikuntha Loka, where there is neither anxiety nor repeated birth in a material body. So this is a very, very beautiful reference, hope-giving reference, where we are told that actually this birth in human life that we are having, and that actually I would like to quote this verse number, I think 29, which is in this same chapter, which is very beautifully saying, Durlabo manusho dehe dehinam kshana bangurah tatrapi durlabam manye vaikunta priyadarshanam. For the conditioned souls, the human body is most difficult to achieve and it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who have achieved human life rarely gain the association of pure devotees who are dear to the Lord of Vaikunta. So therefore, it is said that this human birth in Bharatvarsh is such a big gift. It is more exalted than position in the heavenly planets, because even there they are in anxiety, and even they are aspiring for this birth in Bharatvarsh, where you have the golden opportunity to perfect your human existence. Hare Krishna. Thank you.